Why attractive women are always single. Delusion. Ridiculously high standards. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.
While there is an infinitesimally small portion of the female population who has a killer body, perfect skin with zero effort whatsoever, this is not the case most of the time. I lived for a short period of time with two women who were, not to put a fine point on it, absolutely gorgeous. One was a dance instructor and was the pretty, very pleasingly curvy or incredible rack. A little short but in a cute way, with beautiful big brown eyes and perfectly springy curly dark hair that curved down her back in voluminous waves. The other one was tall with legs that went all the way up to the ceiling, clear cobalt eyes. People often thought that she wore contacts to make them that particular shade of blue, and gorgeous long blonde hair that went down to her hips like a gold curtain. I mean, I was actually shocked at how pretty they were. Plus, I mean, they were generally nice ladies.
The most gorgeous ones, they're like 5'3" and below. Like, they generally fit into like 3 personality or brackets, I guess, if you will. The ones that most people expect are ones who are, she's pretty and she knows it and she acts like it. And then there are the ones on the opposite end of the spectrum who are like the coolest people, right? They're just cool. And then like the third one is just like somewhere in the middle. It's like not too far that side, not too far this side.
I will say that they were kinda lacking in the brains department, but they weren't vapid spoiled either.
Of course. There just had to be just the one. Gotta take the good with the bad, huh?
But oh my goodness gravy, were they high maintenance. Our bathroom was an absolute and total wreck with makeup fallout. Like, no matter how much I tried to clean the counters, they were always dusted with bronzer and sticky with hairspray. The walls of the bathroom were absolutely plastered with hair. The linen closet in the hallway was filled top to bottom with shoes. They spent at least an hour each in the bathrooms in the morning. Clothes everywhere. Their diets were exact. They were always at the gym. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to look that hot. It really does. And since it takes so much effort, it takes up a lot of time. It becomes a constant conversation topic because you're thinking about it. Neither of them could seem to keep a boyfriend for very long.
And if I have to give like just like a reason, I would say probably because they're so like obsessed, it seems, with their looks. Their standards are like pretty high. Like, it's like, what can I equate it to? I wanted to make a Monopoly reference, but you understand, right? Like, you're at like the tip top of, like, you're at the like top 1% of, let's say, like a sport, right? These top athletes, right? What you typically hear from them, they always strive to get better. They just want to maintain that like advantage over everyone, right? And because of that, they tend to have high standards because they know the kind of people that they can attract because they're hot. And so it's like their standards can be pretty high. That's why you notice that a lot of attractive girls, not even just attractive girls, just like girls in general, particularly like if they're like average-ish to like above average in terms of looks, they'll have this long list of red flags. Like, if a guy even has like one, like he likes playing video games with his boys, or he watches anime, or just like something peculiar, he's like, oh, he's a cool guy, he's really nice, he treats me like a lady, he's a gentleman, but he likes playing 2K with his guy friends. Like, just like those particular, it's like nitty gritties, is like, it's completely unnecessary. I would say maybe that's a possible reason why they could be like not keep a boyfriend. Sorry.
I mean, there was literally a rotating cast of characters. There was never a shortage of men, but none of them stuck around. And both of the ladies did want boyfriends, not just one-night stands. I honestly think that the amount of time and effort they put into their looks was part of the reason.
I think their looks have become such an ingrained part of their personality and their identity because from a young age, they've just received that kind of validation just because they're beautiful, right? From like puberty, like guys in who are the same age as them, and maybe guys that are a bit older. They start to like develop, and then they start to grow into their bodies, and they just become more and more attractive as the days go by, because they're just like being fed that positive affirmation, and just like with positive attention just because they're pretty. Yeah, it tends to show sometimes. Like that's why you notice, like what he even just said, like they weren't particularly the brightest tool in the sharpest tool in the shed. They have no incentive to like actually work on themselves. Not that they shouldn't, or it's their fault that they don't, but it's just like that's just like how it is. Like there is no incentive for them to develop their personalities, like to be interesting people, for example. Not saying all beautiful girls are like that. It's just that a lot of them fall into that category, right? And I mean, yeah, I think that's it. That's just it.
That and, again, nice ladies, but not exactly the brightest bulbs. I found talking to them rather dull, because conversation tended to revolve around the last episode of The Bachelor, or something to do with makeup, clothes, diet, or gossip about somebody I didn't know.
Exactly. Like, not to say that they aren't interesting, but they have no incentive to be. I took the walk to Poland. I took the walk. Be interesting. So if a guy comes and he approaches her and then he just finds her like dull, boring, like what he just said, there's literally a rotation. It's like a list from here to here of guys that are just like lined up to be with her just because she's gorgeous. And so, yeah, I mean,
I don't think many men want to have a partner like that. I mean, they probably definitely appreciate the end result. But, again, the amount of effort that takes to maintain is pretty extraordinary. Plus, the most attractive women tend to have high standards when it comes to attractiveness in potential mates. Which, I mean, to a certain extent it is reasonable. I mean, if you're putting all this effort into looking hot, you probably want somebody who's of similar caliber. But also cuts down your options. A lot of what you want is a 9/10 or 10/10 in the looks department. And, of course, some of them are bitches.
of course, some of them are what he said. Those are the ones I talked about earlier. Is like they 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 know that they're attractive, and they just find like no reason to act nice to anyone, because they always have that positive attention towards them just because they're beautiful. They really have no incentive to just be like a nice person. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just.
But you get unattractive people who are not pleasant, either, so I do think there's also a bit of an entitlement thing, since if you look good and you always look good, you are going to get a ton of positive attention all the time and you get used to it. Literally, when we moved out of that place, they had a horde of men show up to carry everything out for them. They even carried my stuff out because the blonde one told them to do it.
I actually have a video earlier, like from like Steve Harvey. We'll just like put it on the screen somewhere. He was like, an ugly man, you can just like call him to be like, I need to move. I need stuff from my apartment lifted to put in right. It was like in like 23 minutes he'll be done lifting all those things by himself. You know, so it's like they really are more incentivized to use their looks to their advantage, because certain things just go easier for them just because they're pretty. Which, I mean, is it fair? Who knows? Who knows? Is it wrong? Not really. I mean, if you have an advantage over someone, it's not like you chose to have that advantage unless you
I was like, no, really? That's okay, but then I got run over by a bunch of hot dudes desperately trying to do their bidding, so I just let them do it. Whatever.
It's kind of like when you have a sister and she has like a lot of guys that like her, and then you're hungry and it's like, should I go and buy food? They're like, ah, no. And then you just ask your sisters, just ask one of your guy friends, then have it delivered to your door. And when it gets there, I just take it and I just eat it.
Perfect.
It was actually somewhat amusing. But yeah, they definitely expected primo treatment. They were used to it. I can see how all of this would make them tough to date.
I mean, yeah. Once they get used to that positive attention and knowing that they can get whatever they want, basically, out of men in particular, it's like they're not gonna stop doing it. And if being with you means that they don't get to enjoy the benefits of their good looks, they're gonna drop you sooner than later. So you best get prepared for that, you know. Now, we were just talking about like how beautiful women use their looks to their advantage. But let's flip the script a bit and just look how it is for ugly men or unattractive men. I actually have a video to put it on the... Hey! Scared me.